Most people believe that a crime scene is a place of chaos, a shattered window, a desperate struggle, or a cry for help. But for the investigators in Bristol, England, the most terrifying thing about the disappearance of 16-year-old Becky Watts was how perfectly quiet everything seemed. In a local hardware store, a man calmly browses the aisles, eventually settling on a circular power saw. He pays, takes his receipt, and walks out into the cool February air. That same night, he and a friend sit in their living room, the flickering blue light of the television illuminating their faces as they eat a Chinese takeaway. To any passerby, they were the picture of a quiet, unremarkable clique. But just 80 meters away, tucked inside a dark garden shed, sat a collection of heavy suitcases and plastic bins, wrapped tightly in layers of cling film. For 11 days, the entire city of Bristol searched for a girl they believed had simply walked out of her front door and vanished. They didn't realize that the slam of that door wasn't just the sound of a girl leaving for a walk. It was the sound of a carefully constructed trap closing shut. This isn't just a story about a missing teenager. It's a study of the mask of normalcy. How a monster can sit at your dinner table, look you in the eye, and join the search for the very person they've already destroyed. To understand how the shy girl with a bright future ended up in that garden shed, we have to go back to the morning of February 19th, to the house on Crown Hill, and the moment the silence began. Becky Watts was born on the 3rd of June, 1998. She was described by those who knew her as bright, independent, and resilient. She was reported to be intelligent, articulate, and at times guarded. Friends described her as thoughtful, sometimes private, but determined. Her life had already involved instability. Her parents had separated, and she moved between households, adapting to different family structures. At 16, Becky was navigating the difficult transition between adolescence and adulthood. She was a typical teenager. She loved her music, her social media, and her friends. But Becky also dealt with significant social anxiety. She wasn't the kind of girl who sought the center of attention. She was petite, often described as sweet and vulnerable. Her bedroom was her sanctuary, a place where she felt safe, surrounded by her laptop, her phone, and her clothes. By early 2015, Becky was living with her father, Darren Galsworthy, her stepmother, Angia, and her step-siblings in Crown Hill, St. George, Bristol. The family dynamic was supportive. Darren and Angia were protective of Becky, knowing her shy nature. This is why, when she suddenly stopped responding to messages on February 19th, it felt like a cold draft had entered the house. For a girl who lived through her phone, silence wasn't just unusual. It was a vibrating alarm bell. On Thursday, the 19th of February 2015, it was a Thursday morning, just like any other at the house on Crown Hill in the St. George area of Bristol. Angie Galsworthy was preparing to leave for a hospital appointment. Becky was in her room. Also in the house were Becky's stepbrother, 28-year-old Nathan Matthews, and his girlfriend, 21-year-old Shauna Hoare. Nathan was Darren's son from a previous relationship. He and Shauna lived on Cotton Mill Lane, but they were frequent visitors. Becky was at home. That morning unfolded without incident. At approximately 11:15 a.m., her stepmother, Angie Galsworthy, left the house to attend a hospital appointment. Becky was alive at that time. This would become the last confirmed sighting of her. According to the story, at some point around midday, Nathan and Shauna would later tell the police they weren't with Becky that morning. They were in another part of the house when they heard a specific sound, the heavy thud of the front door slamming shut. They told the family, and later the police, that they simply assumed Becky had gone out to meet someone. It was a calculated detail. A slamming door suggests a voluntary exit. It suggests a girl in a hurry, a girl with a destination. When Darren Galsworthy returned home later that afternoon, the house was quiet. He assumed Becky was in her room. But as evening turned into night, a cold draft of unease began to blow through the household. Becky's phone was off. Her social media, usually a constant stream of activity, had gone dark. By the morning of Friday, February 20th, the unease turned into pure panic. Darren and Angie did what any terrified parents would do. They called the police. When the Avon and Somerset police arrived at the house on Crown Hill, they were looking for a runaway. That is the standard procedure for a 16-year-old. But as they stepped into Becky's bedroom, the runaway theory began to crumble. Inside the room, investigators found her money, her clothes, her makeup, and most importantly, her phone charger. Ask yourself, what 16-year-old who plans to run away leaves their phone charger behind? There was no CCTV of Becky leaving the house. In a modern British city, you cannot walk a block without being caught on a shop camera or a doorbell cam. Yet, Becky Watts had seemingly evaporated the moment she stepped off her front porch. The search exploded. This wasn't just a police matter anymore. It was a community mission. Hundreds of volunteers in high-visibility vests spread out across Bristol. They searched Troopers Hill, they combed through Dundridge Park, and they waded through the thickets of the local woods. As Becky failed to return home, concern grew. By the 22nd of February, Avon and Somerset police launched a public appeal. Becky was officially reported missing. While the public searched, the family held together. Among them were Nathan and Shauna. They participated in the concern. They sat with the family. They were there when Darren Galsworthy went on television, his voice cracking as he begged for his daughter to come home. But behind the scenes, the police were beginning to look at the negative evidence. If Becky didn't leave the house on her own, how did she leave? The police began to track every vehicle that was near Crown Hill that morning. And that was when their eyes settled on a black Vauxhall Zafira. As the investigation reached the 1-week mark, the tone shifted. This was no longer a missing persons case. It was a kidnapping or murder inquiry. Officers asked the public for information and specifically requested sightings of a black Vauxhall Zafira between the 19th and the 23rd of February. Detectives began a lifestyle audit of everyone close to Becky. They looked at Nathan and Shauna. On the surface, they were an unremarkable couple. Nathan worked as a delivery driver. Shauna was unemployed. They lived in a cluttered flat on Cotton Mill Lane. Matthews and Hoare continued to present themselves as cooperative. They spoke to police. They repeated the same account. Becky had left. They assumed she would return. They expressed concern. But CCTV began to tell a story that contradicted the image of the grieving family members. On the night of February 19th, the very day Becky vanished, CCTV captured Nathan's Vauxhall Zafira arriving at his home on Cotton Mill Lane at approximately 7 p.m. A child was seen in the back seat. Nathan and Shauna looked normal. Later that night, they did something incredibly ordinary. They ordered a Chinese takeaway. They sat on their sofa, ate their dinner, and watched television. But then, the forensic trail got weirder. On February 20th, less than 24 hours after Becky was last seen, Nathan Matthews walked into a hardware store. He wasn't looking for missing poster supplies. CCTV footage showed him calmly browsing the aisles. He picked up a circular power saw. He took it to the counter. He complained that the price on the shelf was different from what the register rang up. He stood his ground, argued for a price match, got his discount, and walked out with the saw. Why does a man whose sister is missing need a power saw in the middle of a crisis? The police also found receipts for large rubble sacks, extra-strength duct tape, and massive amounts of cleaning supplies and bleach. The mask was starting to slip. February 28, 2015. 9 days after the disappearance, police took a massive gamble. They arrested Nathan Matthews and Shauna Hoare on suspicion of kidnapping. 2 days later, the charge was upgraded to murder. The public was in shock. This was the stepbrother. He had been there. Why would he do something with his sister? But you have to ask yourself, where then was Becky? The answer came on the night of March 2nd, 2015. Acting on a tip-off about stolen goods being moved, police descended on a small garden in Barton Court, a mere 80 meters from Nathan and Shauna's flat. In the corner of the garden stood a small, nondescript wooden shed. When officers forced the door, they weren't met with stolen electronics or jewelry. Inside, they found a collection of suitcases, plastic bags, and a blue plastic bin. Every item was wrapped tightly, obsessively, in layer after layer of clear cling film. It was a forensic nightmare. Sadly, inside those bags were the dismembered remains of Becky Watts. The investigation now had a crime scene, but the true horror was yet to come as they realized where the crime had actually taken place. On the 10th of March, Detective Superintendent Liz Tunks addressed the press. She emphasized the thoroughness of the inquiry, stating that every forensic avenue was being explored to establish exactly what had happened to Becky. By this stage, 6 people had been charged. Matthews faced murder charges. Hoare was charged with attempting to pervert the course of justice. 4 others were charged with assisting an offender. The trial began on the 6th of October 2015 at Bristol Crown Court. Prosecutor William Mousley QC laid out a narrative that sounded like a horror film. He argued that on February 19th, while Angie was at the hospital, Nathan Matthews entered Becky's room. He wasn't there to talk. He had brought a kidnap kit, handcuffs, tape, and a stun gun. The prosecution's theory was chilling. Nathan had a dark, sexual obsession with petite teenagers. He wanted to kidnap Becky to teach her a lesson and satisfy his own twisted fantasies. But Becky fought. She fought for her life in that lavender-scented room. During the struggle, Nathan suffocated her. This is where the story turns from a crime of passion into a calculated, cold-blooded operation. Nathan didn't panic and call for help. He took Becky's body, wrapped it, and put it in the boot of his Vauxhall Zafira. He then sat in the house and waited for Shauna. They stayed there for hours, acting as if everything were normal, until they drove back to Cotton Mill Lane with Becky's body in the boot. Over the next 3 days, while the city of Bristol cried for Becky, Nathan and Shauna were busy in their bathroom. Using the circular saw Nathan had argued over at the hardware store, they dismembered the body. Forensic teams later found Becky's blood on the doorframe and the bathtub, despite a massive attempt to bleach the scene clean. Perhaps most damning of all? DNA. Police found 2 goggles and 2 face masks in the flat. Both had the DNA of Nathan Matthews and Shauna Hoare on the inside, meaning they had both worn them. They had both been in that bathroom. Bristol Crown Court heard from shop assistant Kelly Lee, who served him, and she said she put the items through the till before he questioned the price of the saw. Ms. Lee checked the price, and it was the one that she had stated, the court heard. She told the trial,
"The customer said he needed it for today, so he would take the items. He was quite happy to pay the price that was showing."
Matthews stated he heard music coming from Becky's bedroom, and around 30 minutes later, he heard the music stop and the front door slam. He didn't see Rebecca inside, and he didn't go up the stairs or look out of the window after hearing the front door slam. Meanwhile, a next-door neighbor of the accused pair told the court she heard a series of unusual noises coming from their home. Nathan Matthews later admitted to killing Becky but denied murder, claiming the intention had been to frighten her. The jury rejected this explanation. The planning, the tools, the concealment, and the aftermath pointed to deliberation rather than impulse. Shauna Hoare denied involvement, stating she had no knowledge of the murder and played no role in covering it up. The evidence contradicted her account. Her actions after Becky's death, the purchases, the cleaning, the lies to police, placed her firmly within the chain of events. On the 13th of November 2015, the verdicts were delivered. Nathan Matthews was sentenced to life imprisonment, with a minimum of 33 years before parole eligibility. The judge described the crime as one of exceptional seriousness, citing the planned nature of the abduction and the extensive efforts to conceal the body. Shauna Hoare received a 17-year sentence for manslaughter and related offenses. The judge, Mr. Justice Dingemans, didn't mince words. He described the crime as having a grotesque sexual motivation. But for the family, the sentences didn't bring Becky back. There was no sense of closure that sentencing could provide. The loss was permanent, the betrayal profound. A crime committed not by a stranger, but by someone within her own household. Darren Galsworthy later wrote a book called The Evil Within, where he described the unbearable pain of knowing that the monsters were under his own roof. The case of Becky Watts changed Bristol forever. It's a reminder that evil doesn't always look like a monster. It could look like a man arguing over the price of a power saw or a seemingly unremarkable couple eating Chinese food while the world falls apart. In the final analysis, this case is not defined by spectacle or shock, but by patterns, the quiet hours, the ordinary behaviors, the small decisions that revealed something deeply wrong. It is a reminder that danger does not always announce itself. Sometimes it blends into routine. Sometimes it wears a familiar face. Rebecca Marie Watts was 16 years old. She was a daughter, a stepdaughter, a friend. Her life ended in circumstances she could never have anticipated. What remains is her name, her story, and the responsibility to tell it carefully, truthfully, and without distortion. She was just a girl who loved her privacy. In the end, her privacy was invaded in the most horrific way possible. Justice was eventually served in a Bristol courtroom, but the scars left on a family and a community remain. We tell these stories not to dwell on the darkness, but to honor the light that was taken too soon.
If this investigation moved you, like the video and subscribe to join our growing community of true crime seekers. We release deep dives like this every week, and we don't want you to miss the next one. Drop a comment letting me know which part of this case was the most chilling for you and which one you'd like to see covered next.
I'm Mystery Coded, and I'll see you in the next investigation.